Hey everyone, well, happy Friday. I am closing things out here in Washington, D.C. and it was a wild week once again. A lot went down this week. We were on the floor of the House until the wee hours of the morning once again last night. The GOP did succeed by a narrow margin in passing their rescissions bill, which is another catastrophic funding cut bill that will cut funding from international programs, including international health programs, assistance to our allies, and frankly is going to threaten lives across the world, including children in some of our most vulnerable communities around the planet. And yes, it cuts funding for PBS and NPR and will have very real consequences for our communities. In fact, already we know that KUNM, which is our NPR affiliate and our campus radio station in Albuquerque, will be heavily impacted, as well as PBS New Mexico, which so many of us love and watch. And so this is what these guys are spending their time doing, and they're doing it in the dark of night. So yeah, it's upsetting, and I know it can feel very hopeless, but this is a rescissions package that cuts existing funding, which, by the way, Congress already appropriated, and the Republicans are the ones who led the passage of this CR. And so this is what the Republicans are now talking about doing, that they're not going to try to actually legislate anymore. They're just going to, by fiat, continue to do continuing resolutions and then just gut programs behind closed doors while nobody's looking, and then send it over to their friends on Capitol Hill to give it a stamp of approval, but still with very little details. Because if you actually read the bill, and I have to say this, there was some wild arguments on the floor last night, and I have to say it's very clear that the vast majority of our GOP friends didn't read the bill, because I don't even know where they were getting the wild stuff they were saying on the floor last night. But I know many of you are asking, why are these guys passing bills in the dark of night? And, you know, there's a lot to be said about that. I mean, first of all, it's very clear that they have very low regard for public process and transparency. But I will say this, it's very dysfunctional right now. And if you watch what these guys are trying to do day after day, it's clear that the Trump and Republican coalition is extremely fractured at this moment. You've got Donald Trump waking up day to day and basically doing policy by anecdote and whoever talked to him last. You've got, random people inside the Oval Office and the White House complex, some of whom have very extreme ideas about society, culture, the economy. You've got, some old school people in there as well. And then you've got a whole slew of Project 2025 people who are really trying to execute on this conservative agenda that they spent several years drafting. And that's also part of the whole coalition politics that they're doing. And then they have to contend with Congress, which is a wild place, right? You got 535 members of Congress representing every state in the United States, all with different points of view, different communities, different politics. And within the Republican coalition, especially in the House, it's especially fractured because you've got the Speaker, who is an ally of Donald Trump. And frankly, that is one of the main reasons why he is serving as Speaker. You've got some older school guys that have been around for a really long time who are more institutionalist but afraid of the political consequences of double-crossing Trump. You've got a whole school of wild folks with very different ideas about the world and politics who don't really seem to give a damn about the system and what happens when they throw a monkey wrench in it. And they're all fighting with each other every single day. And so what happens is they try to get something done, they put together a schedule, they bring everyone back, and we show up, and then the fighting begins. And so you end up with a week like we had, where it's chaos for days. They couldn't get it together on bills that they were super excited to pass. Then they cut deals that didn't even match the deals they thought they cut. And then they ended up shoving through this giant funding cut bill at the end of the week in the dark of the night up against a deadline. So yeah, this is life under the Republican majority. And a lot of people ask every day, how do we stop it? What are we gonna do? And the truth of the matter is the way we stop it is by voting. The truth is we've got to organize. We got to get out there in our communities. We got to do the work. We got to show up. We got to speak up. We got to speak loud. And the way we're going to get through this is by being resilient and supporting each other and dusting ourselves off and getting up again and fighting like hell and continuing to do the work, because I know this isn't sustainable, but we got to stay in the fight. So with that, and speaking of resilience, I hope you all have a restful and a happy and a peaceful weekend. And I'll be back in the fight next week. Maybe they'll do some appropriations bills. We don't know. But in the meantime, I'll see you all later.